Hello, everyone. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Unqualified Hour on the SunDaze Journey Podcast. My name is Alexis Carthan.
And I am Mary-Beth Meagher.
Yes, and we are your host. So, as you guys may remember from the last three versions of the podcast, or this version of the podcast, the Unqualified Hour is just, I am so tired. I am exhausted. It's been a week.
There's grace for that.
It's been a week. And yeah, I'm just ready for a little R&R this weekend. But
hear that.
The Unqualified Hour is, just our time to just kind of share our unfiltered, raw, dirty, gritty, not necessarily nasty, but it could be depending on what we're talking about and who we're talking about, thoughts. And it's just two ladies talking about things that we're not qualified to talk about, but excited to talk about. So but before we get into the nitty gritty of today's episode, let's do our little icebreaker moment. Let's have a little woo-saw. And just, how about you tell me what's got your attention right now?
Ooh,
although I'm sure I know the answer.
Do we want to go there? Yes,
we can
do.
partly go into
So, full disclosure, we are recording this episode the week of the 2025 presidential inauguration here in the US of A. So, what has my attention right now is none other than executive orders, because they are flying fast.
Yeah.
And they are coming at us. And it is a scary world out there right now. Yeah. I'm going to let that hang and you feel free to pick it up.
Let it marinate. Yeah, man, I think that's just that's just it right now. I think that's partly why I'm just semi-exhausted. Obviously life be lifing, but this is a different level of lifing right now. And we're not a political podcast, and I don't even want to pretend that we are. But it is pretty clear, based off of the kind of content that we create, what we have posted in the past, during previous election years, where we stand.
Yeah.
And I think I can speak for both of us when I say that it's just been a trying week.
It has. It's been a trying campaign season.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
It's been a trying election. It's been a trying inauguration. I don't think it's lost on either of us or a giant swath of this country.
Yes.
That what is occurring officially kicked off on Martin Luther King Jr. Day. That feels deliberate and intentional and honestly gross.
Man, let me tell you, and we'll dive into our topic in a little bit.
We promise.
But we have to, again, this is our time. This is our moment. But the amount of times that MLK was referenced on Monday made me so sick. Like, my just entire being was so disturbed with the fact that you were equating them. They were equating what they're doing with his work.
Yeah.
I'm just whatever.
It's
whatever.
hard to find the words to encapsulate something that is simultaneously so calculated and
Mm-hmm.
also misguided
Mm.
at the same time.
Yeah.
Because we've seen this before.
Mm-hmm.
We're not new to this, we're true to this. And
Honey. Yes.
maybe 4 years ago, it would have been reasonable
Yeah.
to assume that eyes were being opened for the first time because we weren't quite sure what to expect from an administration of this ilk.
Yeah.
But now we have the playbook because they've given it to us.
Yeah. Yeah. And you remember when, like, right after he was elected, you and I had a quick chat, and I was like, dude, I can't say that I'm shocked. And I think that that's kind of the sentiment of a lot of, I know, Black women around the world. One of the things that's actually got a lot of my attention right now is how there is a group of Black women. I think they're calling themselves like the 92% or something like that. That are just like, we look, don't call us, don't text us, we're not coming, we told y'all, this is what we said it was and what it wasn't. And yeah, so we're going to continue to persevere as we have been doing for the last 400-500 years, because it's in our nature. That's kind of where I stand, and I think that's just the song I'm going to sing, at least for the rest of this year, likely for the next 4 years. And yeah, hopefully that at least keeps my spirit up. And I definitely recommend the same for everyone. Just get in that self-preservation mode and just like focus on the things that you can control, which hopefully will be something when all of this is said and done.
Gosh, who's to say? But yeah, hopefully.
Whatever that one thing, this isn't funny, but what else? We have to laugh to keep from crying. But yeah, whatever that one thing is that we'll still be able to control, like hold on to that. Right now we can still control how we move every day. We can control like our hobbies that we're into, and like how much love we give ourselves and those around us. Like, and I think that's just what it is right now. It's just like the bare minimum, like do the most with the least.
Yeah. And we can control who we link arms with, who we spend our time with, who we go to battle with.
Yeah.
I believe that community will feel more potent and poignant than ever in this season we're walking into. And our hope here on this platform is that we can cultivate some form of safe community for folks where they feel heard and nurtured and
encouraged,
cared for and encouraged, exactly, and emboldened to maybe just for an hour feel like it doesn't have to be so heavy every minute of the day, and they can still have an impact in their sphere of influence, whatever that means for them. That's what we're trying to create here, and hopefully it sticks.
Listen, we've been sticking this thing to the wall for years at this point.
This
And
is true.
yeah, I think everything that's happened in the last few months, and especially like the last like few weeks, I think that it's a good segue to our topic for today, actually. And to give credit where credit is due, you were the one that actually came up with this idea.
Oh, thank you.
But yeah, I gotta give you your shout out. But so today we're talking about goals, but not in the, I guess, traditional way one might talk about goals. Like a lot of the times when we talk about the things that we're trying to go after, it's like, how do you set a goal? How do you? But we want to kind of go on kind of like the darker side of this and talk about what it's like to have to pivot back to your goals after life influence or whatever it is has gotten in the way. And and not only that, but like, how do you know when it's time to throw in the towel? That sounds so like counterintuitive to the things that we usually talk about. And I still just feel like it is a very important topic because it's real. Like,
Yeah.
there aren't a lot of times in my life where I said, okay, this is not it, or this isn't going. And that's a blessing. I know like a lot of people don't have that story. Like I feel like a lot of the goals that I have attempted to go after either came true or I'm just in the waiting room. But in the midst of all of that, I've still had a lot of times where I had to wait and had to pivot, and maybe the way that I got there didn't exactly look like I thought that it would. And I feel like that's kind of where we are now as a country.
No kidding.
we didn't think we were going to be here. Okay, maybe we did, but maybe, depending on where you sit on this end, on the spectrum, but
we prayed we wouldn't.
We prayed that this was not it, or this wasn't going to be it.
Yeah.
But before we dive deeper, I would like you to reflect back on your life.
All 30 some years of it.
You don't want to tell people how many years.
I could, but I opted very not to.
So yeah, like reflect back on your life, on your formative years until now, and can you think of a time where you had to either give up on a goal or pivot?
Yeah. What comes to mind, and I know this is different from your story. We'll get into it because we met in a very similar context and we come at it from two different angles, and it's led us off in different trajectories, but also kind of parallel experiences in a way, because here we are. But I went to school to study theater with the goal that I would pursue acting. And I kind of chose that major on a whim in college. I never had any formal theater background. I wasn't a thespian in high school. I took a smattering of acting classes here and there, but it was never like this foundational passion of mine. It was just something that sounded like fun because I grew up loving movies and musicals and TV. So I wanted to take a hard left in college, whereas everyone around me, family, namely friends, somewhat assumed that I would pursue writing because that was what I grew up being known as, Mary-Beth the writer. And I sort of wanted to rebel against that label and shock and awe everyone. So I was like, I'm going to be an actress. And I had an excellent experience pursuing that in college. I loved my classes. I loved my professors. I learned so many valuable life skills. I was yanked out of my comfort zone. I had an internship in New York City at a little janky off-Broadway theater.
Humble beginnings.
Humble beginnings indeed. I met so many fascinating humans and expanded my worldview. I wouldn't have changed any of that.
Yeah.
But through the process, I learned it just wasn't for me.
Yeah.
And I had to give myself permission to, in a sense, circle back around to my first love, which was writing.
Yeah.
And I thought initially that would just sort of segue into playwriting and keep me in the theatrical realm, but it turned into freelancing. And here I am 10 years later as a copywriter and a content creator. And I would not have guessed that would be the path that my life and my career has taken, but I wouldn't change any of it because I love what I do now, and I don't regret the time that I spent in the acting world, but I realized it just wasn't the source of fulfillment I thought it would be. And I needed to return to my roots and do what actually makes me feel passionate, which is the written word. So it was sort of a non-linear way of getting right back to where I started.
It's an adjustment period, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, you're right. We kind of do have like similar stories, but yeah, for me, since you asked,
Since I asked.
since you asked, I think it's funny because if you've been listening to the podcast from the beginning, or even like just the beginning of this season, you kind of know like a little bit about like how the SunDaze Journey got started and like how I got to New York City and like all the things. And it's really because it was a pivot moment in my life where I had to like make a lot of, or there was one big moment where I was like, okay, I have to make a decision. I have to take a leap of faith. And also like I have to do something that's a little different than what I thought it was going to be. And it's crazy because I actually feel like I'm in one of those moments right now. And it's because I thought that when I got here, now I've been in New York City, it'll be 3 years.
What?
In March.
Wow.
It will be 3 years this year. Okay. So,
dude, I feel like I just got the phone call from you yesterday telling me this was happening.
Me too. And, you know, I had like all of these grand, extravagant plans, what I was going to do when I got here. And if I was on the timeline that I had for myself several years ago, then I would have been on my way back to Georgia, because the goal when I first, you know, had the desire to move here was, oh, I just want to go for a couple years, get my feet wet, do the city girl thing, you know. I was also going to be a single woman coming here. Now, I came here as an engaged, I came here as an engaged 30-year-old. Like, what? And yeah, so I thought I was gonna like life was gonna be like very different, and I thought I was gonna come under different circumstances, not just with my marital status, but like my career status as well. I thought I was gonna be on Broadway. Like you, if you would have asked me at 21 when I first came here, I was like, oh yeah, I'm coming back. I'll be back next year. I'll be totally starring on Broadway. Like, it's not even a big deal. Like, whatever. Like, I'll be back next year. In fact, I'll be the lead. I will be Eliza. And
and Angelica.
and
You'll be playing them both.
I'm gonna do literally all of it, and I dare you to tell me any different. Girl, what? I mean, anything can happen. That could happen tomorrow, and I'm here for it. But I'm here in a completely different capacity, and I love the life that, I've created, that my husband and I have created here. And I think that it's definitely a blessing. Like, we've got to come under way different financial circumstances than I thought we would have initially, which is a blessing. If you know New York City rent, Yeah. And, but like, so now I'm in this like season where I'm like, okay, and now I have to remember what I came here to do, what my purpose is here. And there are certain parts of this quote unquote purpose I thought that I had, that I'm not 100% sure are what I thought they were, like things have changed. Like, and it's almost sad sometimes to admit that. And we can like dive into that a little bit later in the episode, but it feels very unexpected when you are someone who's had a certain dream or a series of dreams for pretty much your whole life, and you wake up one day and you're like, oh man, do I even want that anymore? My big dream is still there. Like, she's gonna be there. The girl wants to act, man. She wants to do the stuff. She wants to create movies. She wants to do, but like, there's other things in my life where I'm like, ooh, I don't even, does that even sound appealing anymore? Like, is it possible to do that at this stage in my life? And so that's kind of, it's just odd. It's like I'm in literally one of the moments that we're talking about. That's why we're unqualified, because we're
living it.
we're living it. And I mean, even though we both have been through, these situations before, it's just kind of refreshing for me to talk through this.
Yeah, to hash it out in
let's
real time.
like let's do a full therapy session. Can you help me, please?
Hear that, audience? She needs some help.
I have a therapy session next week. Don't you worry. I'm coming back with fresh ideas.
Love that for you.
Thank you. I'm very grateful. But yeah, so as we were prepping for this episode, I kind of came to the realization that, oh girl, you're in a middle of a pivoting-ish moment. I don't want to call it pivotal because that doesn't seem like the right adjective, but I'm at a crossroads.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is. And a lot of the times when we talk about like this, I guess this topic of like going or getting back to your goals or pivoting back to your goals, that's just really what it is. It's truly like a crossroads. Do I or do I not?
Totally.
What's the Hamlet? Is it Hamlet? What is this? It's the
to be or not to be.
To be or not to be.
To pivot or not to pivot. That is the question.
Or not to pivot. That is the question.
You're ready for your Broadway debut.
Thank you. I told y'all that it was time, and your girl is ready. Just don't test me on my theater history. It's been a minute.
You don't need theater history to make a splash in the present.
But yeah, so when we were kind of preparing for this episode, I realized I was at this crossroads, and I kind of came up with like these signs that are kind of tell me that it's time to pivot or like to make a decision in like this moment in my life. Like, what are the things that are making me feel that way?
Mm.
And I want to share those. Can I share those with y'all, church?
Amen.
Yes.
Church said.
Thank you. But seriously, so one of the biggest things for me was trying to determine if I was really still passionate about this thing.
Mm.
Like, and I don't want to share it yet. That's why I'm being very ambiguous. Because like I'm like, what if I don't want to put too much in the universe and like
We don't need that juju.
right. But like, am I still really passionate about this thing? Because like my drive around it is like not really speaking that like it's not showing that like you want this anymore.
Hmm.
Which that in itself was kind of like a slap in the face, because it's like you're a very passionate person and you have all these ideas and you have all these great things and you've told everyone you're going to do this thing and like you want this and you want that, and like now it kind of feels icky and disappointing to be like, oh, you don't even care about that anymore. But it's real because I've grown.
Yeah.
I've lived. I have a different life experience now, and the things that used to matter to me don't necessarily matter anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Is that growing up? Is that what
I think that might be
dang
turning
it,
into an
man.
actual adult.
Am I an adult now? And then some other things that kind of coincide with this, like I said, the lack of direction. Like I don't really know even how to do, like I'm so out of the game
Mm.
and so far removed from this thing. I really don't even know where to go. And do I have the energy to try to figure it out? Is it truly worth my time?
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, just my own internal desires. Now it's like, again, like, do I want this? Like, or is there something else that I want more now? So, and then of course, if you're someone who, cares about what other people think, which is all of us, the the external pressures and
Totally.
the other things that you could potentially have going on in your life, like, does your life look different now? So like that old thing that you really wanted or thought you wanted doesn't really do anything. It doesn't spark joy, in the words of Marie Kondo. Like it doesn't speak to the life that you have now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are just my musings from today when I was preparing. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think those are all salient points to bring up. And I mean, whether it's a career transition or an area of personal growth or an evolving interest, I think it is important to acknowledge and be honest with ourselves about the fact that our life circumstances, our priorities, unexpected challenges we might face, or even just the way in which we're interacting with a
Yeah.
goal can have an impact.
Mm.
I've noticed that sometimes it's not the passion itself that's ebbed away, it's how I'm funneling that passionate energy. Like
Mm.
maybe the pursuit is not the right fit.
Mm.
Maybe it's not the goal itself that shifted, it's
Yeah.
how I'm pursuing that goal. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll give an example. I was volunteering with an organization for several years. It's a phenomenal cause. I believe in it wholeheartedly. I've seen the fruits of the work this organization does. They produce measurable results that can be replicated. So what they are putting out into the world is so valuable and so necessary, but it doesn't fuel me and how I want to interact with this particular cause.
Oh, okay.
That doesn't mean I don't see the importance of what they're doing. It just means I come at it from a different angle. And I have a different bent towards it. Mine is more empathetic, whereas theirs is more legislative. And
Oh, okay.
we need laws written in this particular area. I'm being vague on purpose because I still work with this
Being very vague. That's unlike us. That's very unlike us, but
I still actively am involved with this particular cause because I do want to see it through to fruition.
Yeah.
I've been on this journey with them for several years now, and I want to feel like a sense of completion before I move on. But it doesn't ignite that passionate fire in me because it's just not how I would tackle the issue.
Got it.
And I've had to come to a place of peace and acceptance and even permission with myself that doesn't mean there's something wrong with me, and that doesn't mean there's something wrong with the goal, and it doesn't even mean there's something wrong with the organization. It's just we need all hands in the pot because everyone has different levels of ability that they can bring to the same objective. And if and when it comes time for me to move on, that doesn't mean I'm exiting the fight. It just means I have a different skill set to offer, and I can do that in another way. So whether it's pausing a goal, shifting a goal, pivoting from a goal, or to get all together, or just sort of reimagining what it looks like, I feel those are all valid ways to be and places to find ourselves because we don't always fit into the boxes that we created for ourselves X amount of years ago.
And that is an immense amount of pressure to put on ourselves to like remain, right? Like that's not at all human nature. Like we evolve, like that we literally evolve so that we can adapt to our environments and the things that are around us. So yeah, I mean, I think now that I am in, at this crossroads, this is so dramatic, man. It's not as intense as it has been in the past, but like, I think knowing what I know now, considering like, everything that I'd been through before, I don't feel as, I'm not as disappointed as I had, I could potentially be if I didn't give myself that grace. I feel like we say this all the time, but there's grace, man. There's grace at the cross.
There's gotta be. It's all we have sometimes.
But yeah, like if I don't extend myself that grace, then I will never open myself up to, what's next for me, the true plans God has for me, and what I'm really sent on this earth to do. Because honestly, like, let's be real, like as like in your early 20s and even now, the external factors and pressures are so real, like just to survive and to live life and to do the things that like maybe your parents want you to do or that society tells you that you should be doing, it can very well deter you from what you're called to do, or you know, what you want to do, whatever, however you want to phrase that. And yeah, like, so it's easy to find ourselves at a point where it's like, okay, dude, have I like gotten so far off track that I need to like, you know, get back where I was, like, or do I have to figure out another way to do this, you know?
Yeah.
Or as we mentioned, or you mentioned earlier, do I need to let this go? Which to me is probably one of the hardest things to do, especially if it's something that you've been yearning for your whole life, or maybe even if it's just a couple of months, or, you know, and what do you know, like, how do you stomach that? Like, how do you march forward and live life in a way where you you know, like where you can truly be forgiving of yourself and like accept this new version? How did you do it?
I think that's the $1 million question.
Dude, you just did it because you had to. Is that really it? Like,
No, that
look,
is
man, whatever. Like, we just gotta go.
Spoiler alert, I realized I was not going to make money as an actress because I suck at it. There actually is a really valid argument to be made for me finally coming to grips with the fact that I was not meant for the stage. I was meant for the pen and the quill.
Listen,
but
you got to know your ministry.
You got to.
Look,
there is
I know I don't need to be doing a lot of things. So
there's something to be said for passion and talent coming together at the right moment, and sometimes those two miss each other.
They are sometimes two ships passing in the night. Me and singing. I swear I can sing. And maybe I can, but no one's told me I could. So
I'm right there with you. I wish I could sing, but that is a whole different conversation that will derail us if I even utter a note.
Why don't you just sing us a little tune?
So this is actually one of the light bulb moments that calcified in my mind that your girl was not going to be on stage. In college, this is so off the rails, but one of the assignments that I was given in an acting class was to sing just 3 bars of notes, not even lyrics, just notes. And the idea behind it was to shake off the stage fright, just to put the inhibitions aside and project, as they say in theater land, and to just own your stage presence, to be comfortable in that spotlight. And everyone had to do it. Didn't matter if you could sing, if you couldn't sing, it was a participation grade. So I walked myself up to the professor after class and just leveled with him. It was like, dude, I can't sing. No one needs or wants to hear this. Is there some extra credit that you can hand me in this moment? And his answer was, nope, see you next week. So I did the assignment in front of everyone, and the feedback he gave me was, that was brutal, and thank you for participating. You survived. Here's your A.
I would have ascended. I would have not survived that. You are an angel, a strong woman.
That's what I mean by life skills. It taught me confidence, but
Look,
With
there's
that being said,
nothing like theater to humble you, man. I
so
swear.
true. It's so
Ah,
true. But that was, and I say it flippantly, but in all seriousness, that was one of the pivotal moments, so to speak, that told me, hey, it's all right to bow out of this.
mm,
It might not be your future. That doesn't
mm,
mean you can't have fun while it lasts and you can't soak up every lesson you can glean from the experience.
yeah.
But sometimes goals are for a season,
Mm,
and that's okay too.
yeah.
So I had to overcome the sense of obligation
Mm,
that I chose this, so I better make it work. And I think there's some guilt
mm,
attached to that. And
okay.
I think if we're being honest with ourselves, there's a grief process too,
Mm,
especially if you spend a lifetime
yeah.
chasing after a goal and wanting it so much that you can taste it, and
Mm,
then all of a sudden realizing maybe it doesn't taste as potent as it used to.
mm,
And that wasn't necessarily my experience with acting. I wasn't
yeah.
in the world long enough to form a strong enough attachment to it that would
Mhm.
elicit grief. But I did feel guilt and shame that this is what I set out to accomplish.
Yeah.
And maybe I don't want that anymore. How do I stomach that
Mhm.
when there's a culture and there's a society around us that says latch on for all you're worth and don't let go? But maybe you can talk about the grief element, because I think that's real. I think we associate
Mhm.
loss with maybe the severance of a relationship
Mhm.
or the passing on of a loved one, but
Yeah.
we don't often talk about the loss of a dream.
Yeah. Mm. I I think, it's we can let's continue this acting thing
Let's.
real quick. Like let's just continue that topic because I think that's a easy one to relate to. I did mention that my dreams of acting are still very much alive and real. But knowing that where I am in my life, like it's gonna look a little different. Maybe I will be what I thought I was gonna be, um, but maybe not. And I think I can talk about what it kind of felt like to have to put it on hold. I can't really speak to it in the sense of like, oh, I lost it forever.
Sure.
But during the pandemic, it was really hard because like right before I was auditioning like a fool, and I was getting close for some. I felt good about it. It wasn't the acting game. Honestly, like you have to fall in love with auditioning, or you're gonna like hate your entire existence. And that's just
Right.
my opinion. Like
Mhm.
you have to just be like, look, every audition is a gig. You just have to lie to yourself. But like during the I
Panty.
did not the panorama. I did not act at all. Like I was not involved in media entertainment, which that more than anything, just like storytelling is my that's my purpose. I know
Mhm.
that's what I'm supposed to do, no matter what it is, whether it's on paper, whether it's on, SunDazeJourney.com, on TV, or
Mhm.
whatever it is. I'm a storyteller.
Mhm.
And but like I was not doing that at all. And I think that felt really that was a very trying time for me, because it was like, if it did feel like a loss of purpose. And I know this is kind of different than what we're like talking about as a whole, but the I guess the grief aspect was, I'm trying to go through all the stages here. It wasn't denial, it wasn't anger. Maybe it was a little anger, like not being able to do the things that you know that you want to do, and like
Yeah.
you're forced to be something completely different in order to make a living, or
Mhm.
find a different way to like achieve your dreams, like maybe in that aspect there was a little bit of anger involved. Maybe
Yeah.
those around me probably felt it, like, girl, you need to go see a play or something, I don't know. um but yeah, like kind of going through that process of grief, and then getting finally to that acceptance stage where it's like, dude, you cannot move the way that you were moving before, and you have to like make certain changes to get to where you want to go, or like where you wish you could be,
Yeah.
I think that's hard. I'm kind of just speaking. I'm just kind of speaking my thoughts, but yeah, I think when I think of the grief aspect of that, it's the goal is just obviously always to get to a point where you can accept your current circumstances.
Yeah, that's so true. Acceptance and contentment
Mm.
is so difficult when we project into the future how we wish it could be, and then we look around at the present and realize not yet. But
Yeah.
whether it's
That not yet part is really difficult.
yeah.
Um I'll let you finish, and then we can we can dive into that.
Well, now I'm curious as to what you were gonna say.
I feel like I've been getting really churchy on the podcast lately, but it's just who I am. But like how they say, like, God has like three answers: yes, no, and wait.
Yep.
And for my Christian brethren out there, cisgender brethren, um, I know that this particular topic can hit home to people of the faith, because when you start talking about purpose and pivoting and like redirecting and just flat out knows, like, because sometimes, like, I have had two very very important people in my life, probably two of the closest people, who have had to pretty much just forget their dreams, and it was because of things that they could not control.
Yeah.
And so it is also, it's kind of hard for me to talk about this thing, knowing that these beautiful souls in my life have had to, or not even, they were forced to give up their dreams because of things that were out of their control, and most of it was medical. You work your life to become this thing, to have this career, and at a young age, like, it's both of these people were in their early 20s when it was snatched away from them. And I think, like, in my 20s, like in my early 20s, that's when I was the most fired up for my goals and my dreams. It was like, if it would have been pulled away from me, you want to talk about grief, like. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's what I wanted to say.
No, I think that's important to touch on the fact that none of us really has the control we think we do. Control
No, not
is an
even
illusion.
a little bit. And that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, just like being able to control the things around you and like the things that are immediate to you. It's honestly key to push through this certain political time. Like, you know, it's, and not even just that, I think in life, like that's just a valuable lesson that I am learning when I am in these moments of pivot or being told no or whatever it is. It's like, okay, I can't control those things, you know, but what I can control is how I react to this, which it could be completely, well, maybe I can't always control it. Like sometimes my emotions have a mind of their own.
Facts.
Same. You feel me? But I think after the initial emotion, I can control that, right? Like at the very least. And not just that, but what I'm allowing in and how I plan for the future, like being more intentional and really taking those steps and reflecting on, okay, like if I am in control of this, is this something that makes sense for my life? Maybe it doesn't make sense today, but could it make sense later?
Yeah, that is so important because one area that, let's say we have control over the choices we make and the responses we have. Let's say that's all we can control. It is helpful to ask some hard, honest questions, whether it's a hard pivot entirely or a let's pump the brakes on this for now and see if maybe it's something to return to later on. Maybe we do need to start asking some questions like, am I doing this for myself or am I doing it for others? Does this still align with my value system? And this is a toughie, but am I holding on to this out of fear because maybe I don't know any different at this point, and I'm anxious to find out what might be available on the other side if I choose something different.
Yeah. That last one.
I know.
I don't know. I feel like we just need to let that one marinate, let it sit for a little, because that's real.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many people in my life, like they wanted to do something else, but a goal that wasn't necessarily theirs became their own, and they've held on to it like it is theirs and don't necessarily, you know, become honest with themselves at any point. And say like, you know what, this isn't what I want to do, but it's because this is what all that they've known, like this is all that they were allowed to dream,
right? Or someone else told them this is who you are.
That's crazy. I am so grateful that it's not my story, but I know that is the story of a lot of people, and I've seen it happen, and I continue to see it happen. I can't tell you how many people have come up to me and said, man, I wish I would have like majored in this and what you majored in, or like, because I didn't want to be a nurse, or some people say I didn't want to be a teacher, which is crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That is not a sentence that should ever be said.
Or a doctor. I don't want someone operating on me who doesn't want to be there.
Look, that should be, no, that's crazy. That is wild. But it's real, you know, a lot of people that's kind of just how their families, you know, teach them. It's like you can be doctor, lawyer, maybe a teacher, possibly an engineer, but something you have to be a woman or a man of the STEM, like
The STEM.
of the STEM. But yeah, like I don't know, crazy. So before we close out today, we like to give you a little bit of an action item. So I took the liberty of digging in the depths of the SunDazeJourney.com to find some retro science. I found an article that we wrote back in the day. Well, I didn't write it. Mary-Beth actually wrote it. Let me not take credit. Who am I? How dare I? So Mary-Beth wrote this great article. It was called How to Stay Motivated When Your Dreams Seem Far-Fetched. And while that is this kind of feels very This American Life-y, where like they give like two stories that are very related to the topic and then one that's like loosely based on the topic at the end. That's kind of what this feels like. But anyway, but I think that within this piece, which we'll link in the show notes, there were a lot of good tidbits that you can take with you and use in either scenario. Mostly the pivoting part, like when it's time to pivot. But I think that this is a great just path forward. So here are a three lovely tips by our dearest scientist.
Stop it.
Our writer.
I am a man of the STEM, or a woman, I suppose I should say.
Our resident actress, writer, and woman of the STEM. Okay, so she instructs us to focus on the long-term perspective and not momentary setbacks. So let's like look at this in the lens of pivoting back to your goals, like being in that crossroads that I mentioned earlier. And I know we've all kind of been in a position like that at some point in our life, whether it was it took forever to get through, or just like a few months, like maybe something crazy happened and you're like, oh dude, I don't even know if I want to do this anymore. But like looking beyond the today, and just saying like, dude, is this worth going after? What is my life going to look like once I finally reach this goal, and obviously like the setbacks are real. That's going to happen no matter what. So I don't have any advice for that right now. Just like suck it up and it is what it is. We got to keep pushing. No, see, this is why I'm not a therapist, y'all. But yeah. So the next one is pay attention to milestones and reward yourself for the progress. That could be something small. Maybe if you are on the acting train, since this is what we're talking about today, maybe you got an audition and you didn't necessarily get the call back, or whatever. It's okay, but you got the audition. That's a huge reward yourself for that. Maybe it doesn't have to be anything crazy. Give yourself a pat on the back, some positive words of affirmation in the mirror, an ice cream cone on the way out, but you have to reward yourself for the progress, because it could be sometimes goals take a minute. They don't
they ever,
like, let's be honest. Like sometimes goals take a minute to reach, and sometimes it takes a lifetime. I hate to say that. I hate to say that. But I don't want to scare anybody, but I think the more we're, kind to ourselves, the less these blows feel more painful, I think.
Yeah, and it builds momentum and resilience so that we can continue pushing on.
I think the next thing is like just creating a vision board in those low moments. It's just to kind of remind yourself of like where you're trying to go and just get, like you said, like create that momentum again. One of the things that I did mention, and I believe in our last episode, was the bingo card.
Yes.
Dude, I'm telling you. So that kind of honestly, like that legit combines all of these. As I was writing these out, I was like, oh, that's the bingo card.
Yeah,
Create
like that tangible piece of information that you, or inspiration that you can refer back to when you've kind of lost your way or forgotten why this matters.
Yeah. So those are just 3 things. Something nice, easy, and not too cheesy. Just right.
Easy, not cheesy.
Easy, not too cheesy. All right. So now is probably our favorite. I think this has become my favorite part of these episodes, because why do we not do this at the beginning? Like, I know we do spotlights, but like the giving flowers segment is the best thing ever.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think we should be celebrating people more. And I think especially now, we need to be celebrating each other as much as we possibly can.
We need to be lifting each other up.
100%. We do need to lift each other up because there are so many people trying to tear us down. So, ladies, let's get into this. Who are you giving flowers to?
Well, I feel like this has been the episode of callbacks, because I will be giving my flowers to someone we've interviewed on the podcast previously. She's a longtime friend and mentor of mine. Her name is Bethany Gaddis. And I have rarely encountered someone who is so fiercely passionate about watching others change for the better. And I have been on the receiving end of some tough love conversations from that girl, but they have always come from a place of just a wellspring of compassion and a desire to see me reach my potential, and a yearning to speak truth over me, and to watch me grow and heal and become the person that I want to be, that I see for myself. And even when I didn't necessarily believe it was possible, she carried that torch for me until I could pick it up and run with it. And we have been through so many peaks and valleys together. And even though I have since moved across the country and we're not in each other's daily orbits anymore, every time I visit, she makes time for me. She invites me into her home.
That's a friend.
That is a friend. She sits out on her beautiful patio with me for hours, and we talk into midnight or later. I sleep in her guest bedroom. We just are such kindred spirits, and she embodies for me what it means to just give yourself full permission to be unapologetically and authentically who you are. Even if that changes from one season to the next, she just embraces it and has inspired me to do the same.
Yeah, that's so nice.
What about you, friend?
I aspire to be like that. You know, I aspire to be someone that's just So it's like, look, this is real. This is me. Camp Rock reference.
I was gonna say that feels Demi Lovato-esque, and I was right.
So if I give flowers to someone today, it's actually going to be like a group of people. I want to rewind back to the beginning of this episode and give my flowers to that 92%.
Facts.
And anyone else who wants to preserve oneself and really just focus on the things around you. I know this feels like it doesn't feel like a cop out, but it can seem like a cop out. But I want to put the nail in the coffin on that and just say that how important it is for us to take care of ourselves right now.
Yeah.
And how crucial it is to be paying attention, but also being quiet internally. Like, we can be as loud as we want outside, but like being as still as we can while we ride this out. And if you're able to do that, and even if you're attempting and you're not 100% successful, kudos to you, man. Those are my flowers, because I'm going to be attempting to do it. I'm going to be attempting to remain who I am. But on the same side of that coin, I'm going to do what I can. And that's the T on that.
That's a mic drop. Couldn't have said it better.
Yeah, but I also love Bethany too, so shout out to her. I haven't spoken to her in a while, but I did have the pleasure of meeting her in person, and it is truly a treat. She's a wonderful human being, and I hope one day I can just be a fraction of the woman that she is.
So Bethany of the 92% is how we're leaving it.
That's it. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us for another episode of the Unqualified Hour on the SunDaze Journey Podcast. I would like to invite you all to share this episode with someone who is just as confused as we are. Share it with people that actually have it all together, that can write in and be like, hey, this is exactly what you need to be doing. Share it with the men and women of the STEM and tell them that we respect them and we hope that they love what they do, because they are controlling science. And on a serious note, share this podcast with any and everybody. Visit our website, SunDazeJourney.com. Also, don't forget, we are accepting your love letters via email or through our contact form on the site. It is hello@SunDazeJourney.com. And then, of course, we always invite you to share your own journey. You can do that by visiting our website at SunDazeJourney.com/share your journey. So I think that's it, friends.
We would love it if you would subscribe, rate, review, give us those 5 stars. You know you want to.
Yeah, other people have done it, so you should too.
You should get right on that.
So don't.
And if you feel inclined to subscribe to our newsletter as well, you'll also find that on the website.
Yep. And that is it. Thank you guys so much. As always, we are your hosts, Elfine. Bye.
Bye.